Welcome to another episode of Inside York Tech, a podcast featuring students, staff, and alumni of the York County School of Technology.
Welcome to another episode of Inside York Tech. I'm your host, Nick Staub, and today I'm joined by three members of the field hockey team here at York Tech. We have Coach John Glass, Senior Yasmine Stover, and also Senior Emma Amereihn. The team ended with a final record of 10 wins, 4 losses, and 3 ties, which was the most wins during a single season in school history. Now, 14 teams make the district playoffs. They just narrowly missed out by 1/10 of a rating point on that 14th spot. But the record really speaks for itself because they finished with more wins than 4 teams that made the playoffs. They finished with fewer losses than 8 teams that made the playoffs. And according to our very own athletic director, Mr. Caruso, this was by far the best season ever in York Tech's field hockey history. So I want to start off with Coach Glass. Now that you've had some time to reflect on the season, can you give me a little insight into how special this season truly was?
It was very special. The kids came out. They were ready to play. They were looking forward to open gyms, open fields, practices. They were showing up. You could see this coming from last season. How good the season was going to be, I had no clue we were going to be at this juncture. But you could see it last season when we first started. They were in a lot of close games, and this year the close games went our way. So you knew it was coming. They were excited about it, and it worked out real well.
Well, I want to take that and transition into a clip from Aubrie Hatfield, who was one of the team's 2 captains. I had a chance to speak with her yesterday, and she's going to talk about Coach Glass and then also kind of how this team came full circle in the last 2 years.
He's actually my favorite coach out of all of Tech here. I met him my freshman year in track. He was very positive there. He got me into basketball, and then we weren't going to have a field hockey team my junior year. We were left with no coach, no assistant coach, and we all begged Coach Glass. He said if another coach would not come and would not be there, that he would coach. And well, we didn't get another coach, so then he became our head coach. I gave him a book at the beginning of the season on how to learn field hockey, and then he laughed because his first ever field hockey game he watched, he was coaching.
So, Yasmine, the point in that clip that really stuck out to me was just how close the program was to not having someone to lead it, and the fact that really Coach Glass was recruited. How was he able to turn around this program in only 2 years?
Coach, he basically coaches like everything here at Tech. And when he found out that we didn't have a lot of girls, he was like, that's our first problem that we need to fix. So he recruited basically the whole entire girls basketball team to come out and play. So majority of our players were basketball players that have never even heard of what field hockey was until Coach Glass was like, hey, you guys should do it. And so everyone came out and just had a positive attitude and turned it around. He brought out so many girls. We had, I think this was like the most girls we've ever had play field hockey ever. So he brought a good amount of people with him.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that positive attitude because I want to shift over here to Emma for a second. One thing that really struck me was just that positive vibe that really sort of emanated from the sideline during games. Can you talk a little bit about how this team gelled and how it came together so quickly?
I think the most important thing to have in a team is positivity, positive attitude. And I feel like having that, I feel like I bring a lot of positive attitude to the team. So I like to enforce and keep positive with everything.
I'm going to go ahead and play that second clip from Aubrie now. And in it, she describes one of the games that she felt was a key moment in the season.
DeLone Catholic, and it was like towards the beginning. I made one of the goals. It was a 1-0 game, and it was tough. We were 0-0 the whole time, and we eventually got to a corner, and we finally just did it, and we made it into it, and we won. It was amazing. We all were screaming, and the other team was just staring at us.
So, Coach, if I have the timeline on that game correct, I believe that was earlier in the season, and I believe it was the first game after your first loss. So I'm wondering, from your perspective, What did you learn about this team during that bounce back performance?
Well, I learned that they weren't going to quit. That's always a question around here, because when they lose, and I've seen this over the years here, the hard thing is to get teams to bounce back, literally. When they lose, the heads go down, they sink. We can't do this. Yeah, you can do this. And in that game, they found that, yeah, they can do it. So that was a critical moment. There was another critical game where we went down, actually 1-0 to Waynesboro. And that game we bounced back and won 2-1. So they learned. You hear coaches all the time say you need to learn to win. They learned to win, and they learned what they needed to do to win. And it's not always easy, but I'm very proud of them all. They learned to win, they learned to bounce back, and they learned to pick each other up.
Speaking of not being easy, you have an extensive background in coaching basketball. You've been doing it for a very long time. But it's my understanding you really had no idea about coaching field hockey, the X's and O's. In fact, Aubrie mentioned your first game that you watched was the first one that you coached. Talk to me about what it's like learning a completely new sport on the fly like that.
As a coach and an athlete, and I encourage this in athletes, one thing I always tell them about is Bo Jackson. Bo Jackson believed he could do anything, any sport. And I try to get them to believe that so they do more athletics, because when you're an athlete, it's just a matter of rolling the balls out and figuring out the strategy of the game. Once we did that, and I seen some strategy in some games, I started figuring out where the players needed to be, where I needed to move people, what we needed to do. And one of the nice things is like Yasmine said, with Emma and Marissa Parker and a lot of them, all of us were new. So as I was figuring it out, they were figuring it out. And with the guidance from Aubrie and Yasmine, it all came together.
And not only was this kind of a turnaround from 2 years ago, and on top of that, you're a brand new coach to field hockey, but also this is not just players from York Tech. There's also at least one other school that sends players to us. Can you speak to how that works? Yeah,
I mean, it's a co-op. They come from York Catholic, and they come from Country Day. We actually had 2 schools this year. And we co-op with them. They send their kids here, and they play. Some of the trouble is for the kids buying into what we do here, knowing our athletic past. But this team embraced Joelle, especially Joelle, embraced her. They made her feel good, and she took good vibes back to York Catholic about, hey, not only do they do track, but they can also play field hockey. They're very good people up there. At the end of the game at Waynesboro, which was potentially our last game when we won, Joelle left the field crying because she wasn't going to get to play with Yaz and Emma and Parker and Cadence and the whole senior group. I mean, I never seen that. She was just an absolute mess.
Well, I would assume in situations like that, vocal leadership's obviously pretty important, not just from the coach, but from the players. And Yasmine, your vocal leadership was pretty apparent this season. What were some of the things that you stressed with your teammates?
That I know how we were just talking about how things weren't going necessarily our way and stuff like that. Sometimes our heads would start dropping, and you would notice certain teammates would start being like, we can't do this. It's just there was no positive energy. And there was a lot of times where I had to stress, guys, we're not out of this yet. We still have so much more time left. There's so much we can do. And even in a short amount of time as a minute, you can do so much in a minute. And I tried to stress that as much as I possibly could to get everyone we're still in this. We got this. You just got to be hungry for what you want.
I mean, it seems like you had all the parts in place. You had the vocal leadership, you had the leader with Coach Glass, but at some point, like Coach Glass said, you have to learn how to win. So, Emma, when was that moment for you when you realized this team could be special?
I think about last year when it was my first season playing field hockey, because I got asked to play and I did, and it was a learning experience.
So you're one of those basketball recruits.
Yes, I am. But last year when we won our first game against South Huntington, that was really my awakening moment that, this is like my drive to win, because we could do it. Like, we were learning how to play. It was a team effort, and that was my awakening moment on we could do this. So then when the season started in the summer, when we had open fields, I realized that this team has grown, and we had new people coming in also. And I could see the talent in our team forming, and we had our first game. I forget who it was against, but I could just see that we came back stronger than ever, and we were ready to win. And I think we won
Our first game, our home game, we won. Yeah.
Yeah, we won. So
I'm curious if you can give me your funniest or most memorable moment from the season.
I know mine. So basically, we were at, I think, was it DeLone Catholic? No, it wasn't DeLone Catholic. It might have been. I don't know. But Nige, one of the other players that are on the team, we're all very like, when you're in the game, you play to the whistle. We drill it into everyone's brains during practice. You will hear coach yell, play to the whistle, play to the whistle. So it was something we've been working on all season. And I remember we were in a game, and Nige, one of our other players, she goes to go dive for a ball and basically does a whole somersault forward, gets up, and she's all wobbling. They didn't blow a whistle. So she gets up, she's wobbling. And we're all like, are you okay, Nige? This girl kind of like wobbles around a little bit and then grabs a stick and goes. She starts running off with the ball, and she just takes it up the field. And I remember that was the prime definition of just play to the whistle. So yeah, I thought that was funny.
So pretty much summarize the never quit attitude of this
Yes.
team. Huh?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Coach, what about you? Do you have a favorite moment?
I have a lot of moments. The one that this team will stick with me for a long time. But the one moment I have is we're at Waynesboro in the last game, and we are in a tough one. We knew what it meant for having a chance at districts. And of all people, Tessa Runkle scores the goal. The ball rolled so slow across the goal line. You could almost read the emblem. I don't know how they never stopped it. I'm looking at it like, and next thing you know, the kids are throwing their arms up and they called a goal, and I'm like, all right, But of all people, Tessa, and the ball rolled so slow, it was like slow motion watching it roll across the line. I'll never forget that. It was funny.
Yeah, that's definitely one of those moments that'll stick with you, I'm sure. And that was a tight game in the end, wasn't it?
Yeah.
yes, it was.
Yeah, because we were tie, and then we had that one goal, and then it turned into it was a fist fight from there on out. It was tough.
Emma, did you think of one?
I had a lot of fun moments playing this sport. Learning it was a great memory. Going through all the trials and tribulations, trying to figure out how to run with a stick and a ball. And I don't know, just I love this team, and I really I enjoyed every moment of it. I don't really have like a specific moment.
So which sport's harder, field hockey or basketball?
I feel like, I don't know, they're both equally hard in their own ways, but I feel like field hockey was more harder to like get used to at first, but then, yeah.
One thing that struck me, and I'll open this up to both Emma and Yasmine, is especially seeing my first game at field level. The toughness of these players is off the charts. I mean, how they go through a game of field hockey where you're essentially hitting practically a cannonball, it sounds like, with almost no protective gear. I'm sure you've all got some bruises and scars you can talk about.
100%. We one of the players on our team, Aubrie, she has a very beautiful drive. Her drives are harder than I have ever seen in my entire life. And so you have players that are like Aubrie that hit these really hard balls. And when you're in a game and stuff like that, there's no really time for like, oh, it hurts. Like, it hurts. Like, it's just kind of like you play to the whistle. So it was like, a lot of the time you're in these games and you're not really focused on what hurts in the moment, but after the game and you're walking off, you're like, my knee's kind of hurting, my back's kind of hurt. And then you look down and you're like, I have like 6 different bruises from getting hit from a stick and from a ball and getting bodied over to the floor. And you don't really realize it in a game at first because you're so focused on the game. And then you're like, okay.
I'm not sure how helmets or face masks aren't required. I feel like someone's bound to get whacked in the face with one of those.
You do. You get a lot of, we've had broken noses. We've had cuts on noses. We've had anything you could imagine. We've had it. We have broken fingers, concussions, all the above.
Yeah.
Coach, I want to go back to you for a second. So there's always that stigma around York Tech athletics almost entirely false, that, we have too many obstacles, we can't compete. Yet here we are talking about an amazing season that field hockey had. There's always one or two teams like that every single season. Last season, look at the boys track team winning the YAIAA Division III title. Can you talk to those students who are on the fence? Maybe they're new to York Tech. What do you say to those kids who are considering participating in athletics?
Those kids gotta believe in what you do. I mean, some of them have been, jaded by coaches from other schools or the way they get treated. They come here, it's open, it's new. You have a new lease on life when you walk through that door. And when you come with the right attitude and the right openness, the sky's the limit. I mean, we got kids on this team, Emma, Yasmine, their grades are phenomenal. We have one that Najee is going to be going to West Point. They just do awesome with what they do. And they're also learning their trades. We've got early childhood development. We have culinary, and you can do these things and be successful. I mean, we have, Emma's one of them getting looked at by colleges. They've inquired about Emma. They've inquired about Aubrie. They've inquired about Megan. The myth that it's a myth. I mean, I did an article with Rylan Rouse last year, and I told the press guy, I said, this is the best kept secret in York County. And when students know about it, some of them run with it. And they take full advantage. You have two here today, Emma and Yasmine, that have taken full advantage of it. They're getting everything they want out of high school. Whereas had they been at their home school, I don't know if that would have been the case. But here, homecoming queen, Yasmine is just about a part of everything. You have Najee. You can't say enough about the whole group. I mean, it's a special group. They want to win. Coach wants to win, and I'm one that believes in defying odds. Don't tell me I can't do something because I'll do it just to spite you.
Basketball is coming up, so how do you switch mindsets from field hockey to basketball? And when does I'm sure preseason practices have started? Tell us when the season starts and when people can come watch you play.
It's a challenge going from field hockey to basketball because it's two completely different sports. The one, you're running with the ball and the stick and you're moving. Basketball, you can't run with the ball. It's very, very hard to adjust the two, but I've gotten better at it. The first year I played, I traveled a little bit, ran with the ball. Practices start the 17th. Mandatory practices start the 17th for girls and every sport, I think.
And how about you, Coach? Have you already flipped to basketball at this point mentally?
Oh, yeah. You make the switch. I enjoy the switch. As an athlete and somebody who loves athletics and loves kids, I like seeing them do different things. Emma, I've watched for years. She's a sprinter for me and on the track team. It's fun to see them adjust from one sport to the next. And they're all different in logistics. They're similar, but they're different. And it's just neat to see how they can change. And I think it helps kids out a lot. I'm one who, I don't believe in pigeonholing kids into playing just one sport. If you're an athlete, go do them. Try them. I mean, I'll pick on Yasmine a little bit. She tried basketball. It wasn't the greatest experience in the world for the poor girl. That was the COVID year, and we couldn't recruit freshmen. The freshman team didn't exist. There were 3 girls that came out that were freshmen, so we just put them on the JV team. And the poor girl was over her head, but I will give her credit. She finished it. She had a positive attitude towards it. She looked at me and said, "Coach, I love you, but I'll never play basketball again."
So just going back to the, how everything changes and stuff like that, going from field hockey to basketball. I remember vividly getting a text from, we have a group chat, like field hockey has a group chat and stuff like that. So we were all talking in there and we got the news that we weren't going to make it to districts. And I remember we were all like, dang, that really, this is sad. We didn't really have much time. We were like, oh, this is so sad. And then next thing you know, right, because we're all on remind. So Coach Glass sends out a remind being like, sorry guys, we didn't make it. It's been a great season. Just turn in your jerseys, all that type of stuff. And then the one right after, it's just like, come out for basketball. And it was like, no, Coach, no, not the time. But yeah.
But the kids find something, and you got to find it in yourself. I mean, Emma plays basketball. And I'll ask Emma this, did you ever think field hockey would ever turn out this way, the way for you that it did?
No, I did not. But I'm glad it did.
You know, and that's the pigeonhole thing with kids. Don't pigeonhole them. You don't know what they can do. I mean, I love basketball, and I've been doing it since I was 6, playing and coaching. I haven't missed a season. But I enjoy it. I mean, when we get to field hockey, it's like, oh, okay, something different I can sink my teeth into. Let's go do this. You know, in track season, I look forward to seeing some of the different kids, and I'm like, okay, let's start running. Let's get these workouts done. And I go to meets, and I love seeing the kids at the meets. I get pumped up as they are at the meets. So you know, don't pigeonhole people.
I think it's great playing like different sports, like what Coach Glass said. Like if you're athletic and you can run and you have that ability, I feel like you should do it. For me, like come from me, I play 3 sports. I did not pigeonhole myself. I am playing field hockey, playing basketball, and I'm running track. And I think it's great. It gives you something to do. It gives you that sense of community, and I think it's great. So don't try to like hound yourself down unless you're really good at it. I don't know. Like if you're just that good and got that talent and it's just your sport, go ahead. But if you have that like ability to run and you're athletic, I feel like you should try different things and try to meet new people and get that sense of community in a different sport.
Well, and Yasmine, even though basketball didn't work out, we'll still be able to see you on the court this winter's sports season too, right?
For cheer, yeah.
For cheerleading.
For cheerleading, not for basketball. I'm not doing basketball. That's not
Understood.
no bueno.
Before we wrap up, I just want to kind of go around the table and get your final thoughts on the field hockey season in particular. I don't think we can reiterate it enough. This was a historical season for the field hockey program here at York Tech, and hopefully the catalyst of a lot more success in the future. So I'll just kind of open the floor. Any final thoughts?
Final thought on the season was just phenomenal. You know, you have a group of kids like this who bought into something they had no clue what was going on. You know, good memories. You know, I have to laugh. The smallest player on the team, Ariana, was always in practice beating up the biggest one, which was Marissa Parker, by stepping on her feet. You know, they had fun different ways, taking them to games. You'd watch them warm up. And, you know, I'm not a crazy coach when it comes to warming up. You know, they do all this fancy stuff. No, just warm up. Let's get ready to play. You know, I don't need to show everybody what we got. We'll show it when it's time to play. But just a phenomenal season. They were a phenomenal group of girls. The seniors, I'm going to miss them all. You know, when you have a group like this, and you had characters. Every team has to have a group of characters, and I had them. I had the tough ones. I had the negative ones. I had the most positive ones. I had the fastest. They do just about everything and anything. You had from all shops. It was just phenomenal. Phenomenal.
Well, and I can say before Emma and Yasmine chime in, the fun thing for us here in the office, like the staff, I can't necessarily speak for everybody, but the staff, we enjoyed just following the season. I mean, we kind of knew early on, like this was a successful season. It had a chance to be really great. And regardless of whether you made districts or not, it was a huge source of pride here at York Tech. I can definitely affirm that.
Well, when you have Mr. Rogers and, you know, I'd see Mr. Stearns, everybody in the hallway, like, I know Mr. Caruso, who athletic directors don't go to away games. He was getting on the bus coming to away games with us, you know, and you get text immediately after a game. When we were at Dover, I got text because we needed that one, you know, to start getting in position. 5 seconds after the game was over, I'm getting text from Mr. Rogers and Mr. Caruso, did you win? Did you win? Did you win? And then when I put back you won, they were like, oh my, you know, and it was something to see how everybody was coming along. I think if we would have made districts, I believe Mr. Rogers would have got on the bus and went with us.
100%. That was was it Mr. Rogers that came running down to the field? We had a game the one time and we're like playing and all you see is like 2 principals running, sprinting down to the field to come watch us. And we're like, what is going on? We thought something happened. We thought someone was in trouble or something. And it was just like, no, we're here to watch. Yeah. They were like, let's go girls. I was like, okay.
I even made a point to Yasmine, and she can comment on this because it was her comment. I said, Yasmine, before we started this 2 years ago, when you were playing as a sophomore, did you get this kind? It was a rainy day. We played somebody in the slop pouring down rain.
I think it was CD East.
It might have been. And I said, did you ever get turnouts like this? And her response was, Coach, we were lucky if we had one person come on a game like this. And
it was Nan.
and we had the bleachers were full. People had their umbrellas, tents. I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah. So basically, I mean, I've been doing this. I started like when I was in 8th grade, but coming over to tech and stuff like that, starting at a new school and then doing field hockey and being with this program since my freshman year, I've seen it change, go from being, we're just trying our best to try to just get through games and not get blown out the water. That's how it was all freshman year. Just don't get blown out the water and no one can really say anything bad about you. And then sophomore year, it was more like, okay, we're conditioned good, but like we're not winning any games. And there were so many times like, oh, we're real close, but close wasn't winning. So it was like, okay, well, now what? And then finding out the news that we no longer had a coach. And I remember our previous coach telling us, and I fooled on that. I'm not a crier. I'm not a big crier at all. But in that moment when she told me that she was no longer going to be coaching, I was like, what are we going to do? Like, this is like my favorite sport to play. Like, this is basically my whole personality at this point. So I was like, now what do we do? And then eventually hearing that Coach Glass, that I was like, last time I talked to this man, I was doing basketball and that was interesting time. So I was like, dang. But, having him then come out and really recruit the whole entire basketball team and put a new look onto field hockey. A lot of it was through basketball. So some of us were kind of like, what do you mean box out? Why are we boxing out? And it was like, you can't do that, coach. And, but through some navigation and stuff like that, he brought a new light into things and it really helped. So junior year was really a setup for us to do as well as we did senior year because of how much like we were setting it all up. And then senior year, we always talked about coach always talked about when one of these games, it's just going to click. And eventually we had that clicking moment. Like we thought it was going to be like this big thing where we were like, oh, we're going to blow someone out of the water by so much. And that's when it's going to click. And it was like, no, like we were just playing games. We were winning. And then we had our like losses. And that's when we were starting to like, maybe this isn't going as well as we thought. But we're like, you know what, let's try this again. Like we started winning again. And then we're like, okay. And then at that moment, looking back at the season, none of us really thought like, oh, we really didn't click. And then we looked back at the season like, we clicked so many times. Like there was those clicking moments that were like everything came together. We all knew our positions. We all knew what our jobs were. And if coach wanted us playing some random position, we're going to play that random position. And maybe we're not the best at it, but we're going to put our all into it. And that's what our biggest takeaway from that whole season, or at least for me, was that it was something new. It was something different. And we learned so much like this past year. So someone that started freshman year, going from it to almost falling, and then it being how good it is this year, I was so happy and so sad to kind of go now. But yeah.
My final thoughts are it was a learning experience. The whole thing was a learning experience. It was a fun experience. I had so much fun. I loved meeting all my teammates from junior year, from starting it out. Like it was a brand new sport for me. It took me a while to get used to it, but then I did. And then coming to senior year, my second year doing it, and meeting all the new teammates and having that sense of community and just learning the sport more as a whole group and excelling as a whole group was just a great experience to have. I'm very grateful that I even decided to play, and I listened to Coach Glass. I was like, oh, play field hockey. I don't know what you're talking about. But I'm glad that I did it. I'm glad that I got to be a part of this historical moment, the 10 wins for field hockey and like the whole school history. Like that's crazy. I'm very grateful that I was a part of it. It was a great experience, great turnout, and I'm excited to see how it goes next year.
Well, and I think grateful is a good word because everyone I've talked to has been just grateful to witness this season, to watch your games, follow along, whether it was through those text messages or being there in person. So thank you all for not only being part of the podcast, but giving us a great reason to cheer on field hockey this season. And that does conclude this episode, but I encourage everybody to tune in next time. We'll have great conversations just like this one, and we hope you'll join us.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Inside York Tech. Catch all future episodes by visiting ycst.info/podcast.